He talks of other Buddhist pilgrims who reached a place called Holai Kalo located in the easternmost part of Eastern India. This is Harikela. It was my mentor, Professor B.N. Mukherjee, who on the basis of this typical Harikela coinage with the name inscribed in local variations of a Brahmi as Harikela, identified the region around Chittagong.
There you have it, Professor Ranabir Chakravarti on the Karwan distinguished lecture about the circulations of ideas, material culture in the Bay of Bengal, which has also been widely discussed by many different historians in America. That is the methodology that I think brings us to the exploration of the 13th Dalai Lama, His Holiness's life during his time in exile. Another notable historian who has studied a later period, he is Dr. Lin Xiaoting, Dr. Lin, who is also the director of Stanford's famous archives. And I look forward to presenting you his book as well at a later date. The previous book I was discussing, I have reached the limit of the Google Books preview. He has some interesting archival material, Dr. Bulag, and they are trilingual. So it was very inspirational just to even browse Qing history archives from their original. And the calligraphy is very nice. Original letter from the general in charge. And here's some Chinese. Dalai Lama 在库伦见妙有无，挚爱转成折部尊丹跋扈图克图。Overall, fascinating documents. 指达赖喇嘛处记。So one would think before the age of passports, such travel should be free for any religious purpose, such as pilgrimage, especially to a city as known for the Buddhist pilgrimage.
Named Orga prior to the Socialist
Which I recently just learned about through my research, but it was under heavy surveillance due to the status of His Holiness, as well as his influence perhaps, as well as the great game. So what if he was a spy for this side or that side was a general concern. And now we move on to a witness account by a Rinpoche, a contemporary, an abbot monk. It has been studied and translated by Dr. Matthew King in his book, Ocean of Milk, Ocean of Blood.
Under the advice of his Buryat tutor and confidant Agvan Dorjiev, the 13th Dalai Lama, Tuptem Gyatso, retreated nearly 2,500 kilometers from Lhasa to Orga. There he sought asylum in the monastic city of the 8th Jebtsun Damba, who famously resented the competition for patronage and devotion that came with the Dalai Lama's residency. Despite the Jebtsum Damba's misgivings, with great effort, the Khalkha nobility local to Orga and faithful funded the enormous and expensive Tibetan encampment for 2 years. In that time, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, taught widely and pursued a distress diplomacy with envoys from Russia, America, and beyond before moving on to Mount Wutai and eastern Tibet. There is now a small body of scholarship on the 13th Dalai Lama's time in Orga, a key moment in the geopolitics of the Great Game, including about his divisive relationship with the 8th Jebtsum Damba. In the 1931 sections of his major historical work, The Golden Book, Zawa Damdin Rinpoche provides a guarded account of the British invasion and the Dalai Lama's flight. Because of its historical interest as a previously unstudied first-hand account, I include a full translation here. In the Wood Dragon year of the 5th Rapcham, 1904, an army of foreigners from Europe invaded central Tibet. Because of that, the Lord of Refuge and Victor Precious One, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, along with some of his attendants, secretly escaped and passed along the northern route. They came to Chinese Sagyu through Upper Sok and then reached Khalkha, Mongolia. Many individual bannermen lined the path to welcome him upon his arrival. In the late month of winter, the party arrived at Gadin Tegchenling Monastery at the center of Orga. That spiritual master with a Karab Jampa degree and his students were divided, began teaching and debated Buddhist texts. The Dalai Lama came to both colleges and they held answers examinations, which he attended again and again. The Lord himself and his Tibetan disciples, incarnate lamas, and masters in his entourage all rose and debated. High and low lamas and leaders of the center and borderlands of Mongolia, along with faithful lay people and monastics, gathered every day like a rain cloud. They visited him and asked for divinations, initiations, transmissions, and blessings. He fulfilled the wishes of all higher, lower, and middling beings. Like rivers gathering into the ocean, he received donations of material objects and animals from all directions. At Gunga Choling, he gave the bodhicitta precepts principally to Tibetan and Mongolian lamas, reincarnated masters, and over 3,000 monks. At his yellow encampment, he bestowed the great initiation of Avalokiteshvara 3 times, and widely spread the tradition of full monastic ordination. He gave 5,000 silver coins to both monastic colleges in order to begin an allowance, which was a system for the monks. In the winter of the wood snake year 1905, he went to the encampment of the Chin Wang and received teachings from Jamyang Lama Tendar. During the summer of Fire Horse year 1906, he went to the monastery of Zaya Pandita. During the autumn, he went to the monastery of Erdeni Jowo. He offered saffron water and then did a consecration. He also offered tens of thousands of butter lamps. Continuously, day and night, he diligently made requests, prayers, auspicious recitations, and so forth. People recount that he said, "This Jowo statue is, in terms of blessings, no different than Lasa's Jowo." After that, he turned the reins of his horse toward the encampment of Sayin Noyan. From there, he departed for China's Gansu province by rail. He went to Mount Wutai and Beijing. He visited Emperor Guangxu, and then he once more departed by rail to Kumbun and beyond. In the Earth Monkey year 1908, he returned to Tibet where he stayed, protecting and increasing the Buddhist teachings through the 3 wheels of activities. One day in the Ox year 1924, the politicians of central Tibet had an internal feud. Because of that, along with a few attendants, the Lord of Refuge, the 9th Panchen Lama, Tuptem Choki Nima, also secretly escaped via the northern route through Upper Sok and planned to come to Khalkha. However, he arrived at Sagyu. The yellow Chinese deceitfully directed him to Lanzhou, which is a city in Gansu. Because of that, he took the railway to Mount Wutai, Beijing, Mukden, and so on in Manchuria. These days, he resides in the land of the 49 groups, which is Inner Mongolia, in order to benefit the teachings and sentient beings. In this way, when a political or religious mishap occurs in Tibet, both the victor, the Dalai Lama, and his son, the Panchen Lama, hasten to the Oirat and Khalkha regions. The reason for this is, as it says in Welmang Rinpoche's chronicle, the victorious father and son have expressed their respect. The seat of the Oirat is the same as that of King Songtsan Kampo. Khalkha is the seat of Chinggis Khan. These are places that attract the attentiveness of the 2 systems. End quote of Welmang Rinpoche. Though I need to explain more on this topic, explained by Zawa Damdin Rinpoche, I am uninterested in being biased. People do not appreciate an honest statement, so I will leave it all unsaid here. And this is Dr. Matthew King's commentary. In the 1936 summary, perhaps due to greater caution and self-censorship than he felt when undertaking the 1931 historical writing quoted above, Zawa Damdin Rinpoche leaves out any further description of the political climate during the Dalai Lama's stay in Orga 30 years prior. He notes blandly that this was a happy time when the most knowledgeable of Tibet, China, and Mongolia gathered here as if at a monastic assembly. Regardless, the Dalai Lama's 2-year stay in Urga was a critical time for Zawa Damdin Rinpoche's development. New encounters shaped the interpretive tools he later used to make sense of the Qing ruins, as the visit facilitated intellectual exchanges with envoys of European and Russian arts and sciences. Most notable in his autobiographical accounts are the regular personal interactions he enjoyed with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In 1905, Zawa Damdin once even served as chief ritualist during a sojong, monthly monastic confession and vow purification ceremony presided over by the Dalai Lama. Zawa Damdin recalls that following that ritual performance, which included an oral recitation of both individual liberation sutras, the Dalai Lama showed his pleasure with me. He placed both of his hands on my head and said, "Wonderful," before giving me a very blessed statue of the Manju Gosha Lama, Tsongkhapa, who is the founder of the Gelugpa.